November 15, 1985. The bright lights of NBC's legendary Studio 6B in New York City illuminated what would become one of the most explosive and unexpected confrontations in television history, as 60 million viewers across America settled in to watch what they assumed would be a routine episode of Saturday Night Live, featuring musical guest Prince and a special appearance by avant-garde composer Frank Zappa. The show's producers had arranged for Zappa to introduce Prince's performance as part of a segment celebrating the diversity of American music, bringing together two artists who represented completely different ends of the musical spectrum. Zappa, the 44-year-old iconoclastic composer known for his complex compositions, satirical lyrics, and disdain for commercial music, and Prince, the 27-year-old pop superstar whose Purple Rain album had dominated charts worldwide. But what the audience didn't know was that Frank Zappa had arrived at the studio with a very different agenda than simply introducing Prince's performance, and when the cameras began rolling for what was supposed to be a brief collegial exchange between two musical innovators, Zappa instead launched into a scathing, unscripted attack on Prince's artistic credibility, commercial motivations, and contributions to American music that left the live television audience stunned, and Prince facing the most public challenge to his artistic legitimacy that he had ever encountered. What happened next, in front of 60 million viewers and under the intense pressure of live television, would not only define Prince's character and artistic integrity, but demonstrate why some of the greatest artists prove their worth, not through words or explanations, but through demonstrations of pure creative power that silence all critics and transcend every boundary that others try to impose on their art. If you want to discover the moments when Prince faced his biggest critics head-on and proved that true artistic genius speaks louder than any attack or criticism, please subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. What you're about to witness shows that the greatest artists don't defend themselves with arguments. They let their art do the talking. The decision to pair Frank Zappa and Prince on Saturday Night Live had been conceived as an interesting experiment in showcasing the breadth of American musical creativity. On paper, the pairing seemed like it could create an engaging contrast between two highly successful but stylistically different artists who had each pushed boundaries and challenged conventional approaches to popular music. Frank Zappa had built his reputation over nearly 2 decades as one of America's most uncompromising musical artists, creating compositions that combined rock, jazz, classical, and experimental elements in ways that challenged both audiences and musicians. His work with the Mothers of Invention, and as a solo artist, had earned him critical acclaim for his technical sophistication, satirical social commentary, and refusal to conform to commercial expectations. Zappa was known for his outspoken criticism of what he viewed as the superficiality and commercial manipulation that characterized much of popular music. Prince had achieved unprecedented commercial and artistic success with a completely different approach that emphasized emotional accessibility, genre-blending innovation, and theatrical presentation. His Purple Rain album had demonstrated his abilities as a songwriter, performer, producer, and multi-instrumentalist, while achieving massive popular success that typically required compromises to artistic integrity. The contrast between Zappa's artistic approach and Prince's commercial success had created tension within music criticism circles, with some critics arguing that Prince's focus on popular appeal indicated that his work was less artistically serious than artists like Zappa, who prioritized artistic experimentation over commercial accessibility. That week, 32-year-old television producer Michael Chen had been working on developing the Saturday Night Live segment featuring both artists, with the original concept calling for Zappa to provide a brief introduction to Prince's performance while offering commentary on the diversity of American popular music. The segment was intended to be collegial and educational. However, as the November 15th broadcast date approached, it became apparent that Frank Zappa had a very different vision for his appearance. During rehearsals, Zappa had made comments suggesting he viewed the pairing with Prince not as an opportunity for mutual respect, but as a platform for making points about what he saw as fundamental problems with contemporary popular music and the music industry's priorities. Zappa had long been a vocal critic of what he viewed as the increasing commercialization of popular music and the ways that market considerations were influencing artistic decisions. From Zappa's perspective, Prince represented many of the trends he found problematic: emphasis on visual presentation, calculated appeals to popular taste, and the kind of commercial success that Zappa believed was only possible when artists compromised their artistic integrity. The live broadcast began normally, with host Billy Crystal delivering his opening monologue and the show proceeding through its typical mix of comedy sketches. The 60 million viewers had tuned in expecting usual Saturday Night Live entertainment, with most anticipating Prince's musical performance as the evening's highlight, but having no particular expectations about Zappa's introduction. When the moment arrived for Zappa's introduction of Prince, the cameras focused on both artists standing together on the Studio 6B stage, with Zappa positioned at a microphone and Prince waiting nearby to begin his performance. The setup appeared conventional and professional, giving no indication of what was about to unfold. "Ladies and gentlemen," Zappa began, "I've been asked to introduce tonight's musical guest, Prince, who has achieved remarkable commercial success with music that demonstrates considerable technical competence and undeniable popular appeal." The opening seemed conventional enough, but Zappa's tone and word choices, particularly his emphasis on commercial success and popular appeal, suggested a more complex agenda. The live audience began to sense that something unusual was developing. "However," Zappa continued, "I think it's important for audiences to understand the difference between entertainment that gives people what they think they want and art that challenges people to expand their understanding of what music can be. Tonight, you're going to hear music that is expertly crafted to appeal to the largest possible audience, which is a perfectly legitimate commercial enterprise, but I question whether we should confuse commercial success with artistic advancement." Before we reveal what Prince did when Frank Zappa challenged his artistic credibility in front of 60 million people, I want to ask you something. Have you ever been publicly criticized or challenged in a way that questioned your fundamental abilities or integrity? How did you choose to respond? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The studio audience and television viewers were now clearly witnessing something far different from the planned introduction, as Zappa's comments had evolved into a direct challenge to Prince's artistic legitimacy and a public questioning of whether his commercial success represented genuine musical achievement. Prince stood nearby, listening to Zappa's critique with an expression that remained calm and focused, showing no visible signs of anger or defensiveness despite the unexpected nature of the attack. Zappa's critique continued for several more minutes, during which he elaborated on his views about the relationship between commercial success and artistic integrity, the role of marketing in contemporary music, and what he saw as the declining standards for musical sophistication in popular entertainment. His comments were articulate and substantive, drawing on his extensive knowledge of music history and theory, but they were also clearly intended as a direct challenge to Prince's artistic credibility and contributions to American music. "The question we should ask ourselves," Zappa said, looking directly at Prince, "is whether music that is designed primarily to achieve commercial success can truly contribute to the advancement of musical art, or whether it simply represents sophisticated marketing of conventional entertainment formulas. I believe that genuine artistic innovation requires a willingness to risk commercial failure in pursuit of creative advancement, and I'm not convinced that tonight's music will demonstrate that kind of artistic courage." The challenge was now explicit and unmistakable, with Zappa having used his platform to directly question Prince's artistic seriousness and creative contributions in front of the largest television audience of Prince's career. The 60 million viewers watching the broadcast were witnessing an unprecedented moment in television history, a public artistic challenge issued live and unscripted, creating a situation that would require Prince to respond not just to Zappa's specific criticisms, but to the broader questions about commercial success, artistic integrity, and creative authenticity that Zappa had raised. Prince's response to this unexpected challenge would prove to be one of the most defining moments of his career, demonstrating not only his artistic abilities but also his character, creativity, and understanding of how to handle pressure and criticism. Rather than responding with words, arguments, or defensive explanations, Prince chose to answer Zappa's challenge in the most direct way possible, through a musical performance that would address every question Zappa had raised about his artistic capabilities and creative authenticity. Mr. Zappa, Prince said quietly into the microphone, I appreciate your perspective on art and commerce. Rather than discussing these questions, I'd like to show you and the audience what I mean when I create music. This next song isn't from any album, isn't planned for commercial release, and isn't designed to appeal to any particular market. It's just music. What happened next created television history. Instead of performing his planned songs from Purple Rain, Prince sat down at the piano and began to improvise a completely original composition that demonstrated every aspect of musical sophistication and artistic innovation that Zappa had suggested might be absent from his work. The improvisation lasted exactly 12 minutes and showcased Prince's technical mastery of multiple instruments and his deep understanding of the complex musical traditions that Zappa championed. Prince seamlessly incorporated elements from classical composition, jazz improvisation, funk rhythms, and experimental sound manipulation, creating a musical statement that was both artistically adventurous and emotionally compelling. What made Prince's response extraordinary wasn't just the technical sophistication, it was how he addressed Zappa's criticisms directly through musical demonstration rather than verbal argument. Every element seemed designed to answer specific questions. The composition's complexity demonstrated his understanding of advanced musical theory, its experimental elements showed his willingness to take creative risks, and its emotional power proved that artistic innovation and human connection weren't mutually exclusive. As Prince continued his improvisation, incorporating increasingly complex harmonic progressions and rhythmic variations while maintaining musical coherence, the audience fell completely silent. Even Frank Zappa appeared completely absorbed in Prince's performance, his expression shifting from skeptical challenge to genuine amazement as he witnessed musical capabilities that exceeded his expectations. When Prince brought his improvisation to a conclusion, the silence lasted several seconds before the audience erupted in sustained applause that continued for nearly 2 minutes. The most significant response came from Frank Zappa himself, who approached Prince with genuine respect and admiration. That, Zappa said, his voice audible through the microphone system, was exactly what I was hoping to hear. That was genuine musical innovation, creative risk-taking, and artistic excellence. I apologize for my assumptions, and I want to thank you for demonstrating that commercial success and artistic integrity aren't necessarily incompatible. Prince's gracious response demonstrated the same maturity that had characterized his musical response. Rather than using the moment to criticize Zappa's attack or assert his superiority, Prince chose to build bridges and create mutual understanding. Thank you for pushing me to show that side of my music, Prince replied. I don't often get the opportunity to improvise like that in commercial contexts, but it's always been part of how I think about music. Your challenge helped me remember why I fell in love with music in the first place, not because of how it might be received, but because of what it allows me to express. The remainder of the episode proceeded with completely different energy, as Prince performed his planned songs with obvious joy and creative freedom, while Zappa remained on stage to provide commentary and even joined Prince for a brief collaborative improvisation that showcased how different musical approaches could complement each other. The impact of the November 15th broadcast extended far beyond the immediate television audience. The footage became one of the most widely shared and discussed moments in television and music history, with critics, educators, and fans analyzing the performance and the broader questions it raised about art, commerce, and creative authenticity. Frank Zappa became one of Prince's most vocal advocates within the serious music community, frequently citing their Saturday Night Live encounter as an example of how genuine artistic excellence could emerge from unexpected sources. Zappa's endorsement carried significant weight, helping to change perceptions among critics who had previously dismissed Prince based on his commercial success. The encounter also influenced Prince's subsequent career decisions. He began incorporating more improvisational elements into his performances and recordings, demonstrating his advanced capabilities more openly, while maintaining his commitment to creating music that could connect with broad audiences. The performance had proven that artistic sophistication and popular accessibility weren't mutually exclusive. Today, the story is remembered as one of the most powerful examples of how true artists handle criticism, not through defensive arguments, but through demonstrations of excellence that transcend all categories and expectations. The encounter serves as a reminder that the most effective response to challenges about artistic authenticity is always the art itself. The lesson from that November evening in Studio 6B remains relevant for anyone who faces challenges to their abilities or integrity. The most powerful response to doubt is not explanation or argument, but simply doing the work at the highest possible level and letting the results speak for themselves. Thank you for joining us on this journey through one of television's most legendary confrontations and its inspiring resolution. If this story encouraged you to respond to challenges with excellence rather than defensiveness, or reminded you that true talent transcends all boundaries and categories, please subscribe and share your own experiences of proving doubters wrong through demonstration rather than words in the comments below.